Kate Ume attended United Christian Secondary School, UCSCC. She was known for her academic brilliance, debating prowess, and audacious nature. Obiageli Ezekwesili earned her undergraduate degree from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, in 1985, where she graduated as the top student in her class. After completing the National Youth Service Course program in Imo State between 1985 and 1986, she pursued a master's degree at the University of Lagos in 1987. In 1988, she started her professional career as an audit trainee with Akintola Williams Deloitte and Touche, one of the big 5 accounting firms in Nigeria. She went on to qualify as a chartered accountant and was subsequently recruited as a manager in an investment company where she worked for Dr. Tim N. Benakaya, who later assumed the position of Minister of Health in Nigeria. What sets Dr. Oby apart is her unique ability to balance her private sector accomplishments with an unwavering commitment to public issues. While working for Akintola Williams Deloitte and Touche, Dr. Oby married her heartthrob, Pastor Chinedu Ezekwesili. The couple is blessed with amazing sons. Their twins, Chuba and Chinemelu, are artists, designers, and philosophers of nature. And their younger brother, Chidera, is the operations lead across their ventures.
Pastor accompanied me to a speaking engagement that I had in a church in Washington, D.C. They left me at some point as certificates of person. And then this person said to Pastor that, what does it feel like to be married to Oby Ezekwesili? I mean, like, we all know her. Right, process. Pastor got up to answer the question. Placed his hand on my head and said, are you talking about a baby? That was all I needed to know. And he said, all these things don't matter to us. We are a family. We are together.
During the early 1990s, alongside her professional career, Dr. Oby actively pursued her passion for good governance by participating in civil society activities. As one of the youngest co-founders and pioneer directors for Africa on the board of Transparency International in Berlin, Germany, she played an instrumental role in designing the flagship Corruption Perception Index, an annual global index that ranks countries based on their corruption levels. In addition to this, Dr. Oby served as a steering committee member and later chairperson of Concerned Professionals, a group led by Professor Pat Utomi, which campaigned for the restoration of democracy and good governance during the IBB Abacha military dictatorship. She was also a member of the Board of Integrity, an organization that advances integrity in public and private sector interactions.
The annulment of the 1993 elections, at which many of my generation voted for the first time, just triggered this agitation. As chair of Concerned Professionals, we decided that we would hold a watching brief in court case of MK Abiola. Including that we go to court, we have someone representing our group, who was on the group that the then acting High Commissioner for Canada called me and said, don't do that. To do that, and we killed and held me and preached. My mom was really shaken at that event. So it was a tough period. We lost people in civil society. I left the country.
Through the support of her mentor, Baroness Sherman Williams, and a stroke of divine favor and direction, Dr. Oby attended the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University, where she earned a master's in public policy and administration. After her studies, she began working for the renowned economist, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, director of the Harvard Center for International Development, where she led the Harvard Nigeria Economic Strategy Program and provided support in the design of economic development and debt reduction strategy to the newly democratic government of Nigeria. It was in that capacity she began the public procurement reform in Nigeria. At the request of President Obasanjo in 1999, Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili returned to Nigeria at the end of 2000 to serve her nation. During her time in government, she led the Price Intelligence Unit, PIU, later known as the Due Process Office. She was chairperson of NAITI, Nigeria Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, and she was a key member of the government's economic team. Dr. Oby then served as a federal minister of solid minerals and later as a federal minister of education.
Some contracts would save the government more than 5 billion naira in inflated costs in one project. The due process one cut them back to size. And when the president had sent me to Ministry of Minerals, the legislation I inherited, as the minister sharp. So I decided to do a law that removed all these powers from the minister. We set up what we call the Mining Cadastral Office, and it was a technology-powered system. So I went to education, investment in physical infrastructure, the governance issues, the regulatory issues, teacher quality, availability, as well as, of course, the teaching method. You have to look at instructional matters, you have to look at evaluation issues, you have to look at finance.
Before completing her term as Minister of Education, Dr. Oby was competitively selected to serve as the Vice President for the Africa region at the World Bank, beginning in May 2007. During her tenure, which lasted until May 2012, she supervised the bank's operations across 48 sub-Saharan African countries. In this role, she managed a lending portfolio exceeding $40 billion and led teams responsible for producing over 150 analytical studies annually across various sectors of the economy. Notably, Dr. Oby holds the distinction of being the first external candidate appointed as Vice President of the African region at the World Bank. She was also the first and only woman Vice President to oversee the bank's extensive operations in Africa. She ran the largest department with more than 2,000 staff under her leadership.
My time at the World Bank, I prioritized the smaller countries in Africa. I prioritized the conflict-affected countries in Africa. I prioritized the countries, the slow-growing countries, and often the small and the landlocked countries and fragile countries had similar kinds of issues. So I prioritized those countries that were most vulnerable to shocks that made them that caused them to be trapped in low equilibrium growth. And then I prioritized the countries like Nigeria and South Africa, which, when they grew, it had a salubrious effect on the growth of the rest of the country.
Former President of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, in his tribute to Dr. Oby, shared the following: Oby Ezekwesili is like a daughter to me. Even when she was a minister, I treated her the same way I treated my biological daughters. I recall when Oby informed me that she was given a job at the World Bank. I didn't want her to go because I needed her. But then I said to myself, let her go. It may be part of Nigeria's contribution to global development, especially in Africa. And she went on to the World Bank and did her best. She was, for me, one of the best from Africa. End of quote. Dr. Oby retired from her position at the World Bank in Washington, D.C. in 2012 to rejoin her family in Abuja. She became a senior economic advisor for the Open Society Foundation in New York, but operating from Abuja while traveling to various countries where she was an advisor to presidents and their cabinets on the design and implementation of economic and human development strategies. On the night of April 14-15 in 2014, Boko Haram, an Islamic terrorist group, kidnapped 276 female students aged 16 to 18 from the government girls' secondary school in Chibok, Borno State, Nigeria. Dr. Oby co-convened the viral citizens advocacy for the kidnapped Chibok girls due to her burden and anger at the then government's apathy, which denied the incident ever occurred and failed to take the immediate action that could have rescued the innocent schoolgirls.
If we did not stand out there for those girls, they would have just been peaceful. They would have been peaceful. Some others said, well, are you sure there are any girls abducted in the first place? Others said, oh, the reason you're doing it is to get attention. I'm thinking, get attention. What attention does an obvious person need again in life? Attention for what? What did I mean? You know, some said, oh, you know, it's because Jonathan did not make her a minister. I'm thinking, are they okay? You know, so people had their various things that they were saying. But one thing kept me. It was the fact that if any of those girls had been the children of the middle class, the politically connected, the powerful in this country, they would not have been treated the way they were being treated.
Her reaction to the failures of 2 consecutive governments to rescue the Chibok girls was to run for office in the 2019 general election, despite her well-known aversion to politics. Her decision also served as a signal to encourage unconventional and non-professional politicians to consider entering politics as a means to serve the people. Her presidential campaign was gaining traction until there was a clash between her party and Dr. Ezekwesili over matters of values. On January 24, 2019, she announced her withdrawal from the presidential election. Dr. Oby spent time reflecting deeply on her previous efforts to promote a just and inclusive Nigeria and Africa. This led her to pursue research. She was awarded the prestigious Richard von Weizsäcker Fellowship at the Bosch Academy in Berlin, and with the encouragement of her husband and mother, accepted the fellowship opportunity. Her groundbreaking research culminated in the development of her well-known concept, the triangular pillars of democracy, aimed at rectifying distortions within democracies. She then established a community of practice consisting of 120 individuals from the public sector, civil society, and private sector, and across all regions of Nigeria and the diaspora, who collaborated to implement the findings of her fixed politics research. After her mother passed away in 2020, Dr. Oby became even more determined to transplant the transformation she observed in other countries to Nigeria. She believed this could be achieved by fixing the political system primarily through policy reform and good governance. After extensive discussions and consultations with like-minded individuals, both within and outside Nigeria, the group recognized the urgent need for a solid response to the leadership deficit in Nigeria and Africa. This realization led to the creation of Fixed Politics.
That research work on fixing politics that I did has then propelled me to build this community of people that belong to the Fixed Politics community. Our programs around the Office of the Citizen and Community Organizing, we are getting the citizens to really take their place. You can see how actively the Nigerian citizens have become. We saw it in the last election. And then the supply side activities were the training of a massive number of new political leaders through the School of Politics, Policy and Governance. We're going to expand it across Africa. The Senegal school is starting soon this year. By the time you are trained in the SPPG, you come out with character, competence and capacity, ready to serve in order to lead. The Nigerian school has already produced cohorts, the pioneer class, 160 people, political leaders, new political leaders for Nigeria. In the class of 2022, we produced 134 new political leaders for Nigeria. The current class in session, class of 2023, there are over 200 of them in the class. Somebody said, oh, you're multiplying yourself. He said, there is no greater mentorship you could have provided than to establish this kind of top quality, public leadership programs.
Following her tenure in government and the World Bank, Dr. Oby has built an illustrious career. holding positions on numerous boards across various organizations. She was a board member for Bharti Airtel in India, a director of the World Wildlife Fund, WWF in Switzerland, a director of the Harold Hartog School of Government and Policy at Tel Aviv University. She was a co-chair of the Africa Regional Strategy Board with the World Economic Forum, Switzerland. She was an advisory board member of the Center for Global Leadership at Tufts University in Boston and other national and international organizations. She was a member of the board for the Central European University School of Public Policy in Budapest, Hungary. She was a commissioner of the Global Ocean Commission and a member of the Global Advisory Board for Facebook's Community Leadership Program. She currently serves on over 25 global boards, some of which are Mexford University, member of the Board of Trustees for FDC, Fundação Dom Cabral. She's a council member for Bayer Foundation's Social Innovation Council. She's a Hertie School Working Group member on Responsible Leadership for Club de Madrid. She's a member of the UN Refugee Agency's Advisory Group on Gender, Forced Displacement and Protection. She's a chair of the Women Political Leaders WPL at Brussels, Belgium. She's a global advisory board member for the Archbishop Tutu Fellowship at the African Leadership Institute in South Africa. Dr. Oby has also been decorated with several awards nationally, continentally, and globally. She was awarded Minister of the Year by This Day newspapers. She was also awarded Person of the Year by Sun newspaper. She's a recipient of the Robert F. Kennedy Award of Excellence in Public Service from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. She's a recipient of the Mother Teresa Memorial Award for Social Justice 2018 by Harmony Foundation in India. She's one of the Albert Einstein Foundation's Genius 100 Visionary Thinkers. She's been listed as one of Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential People and the New York Times' 25 Women of Impact in 2015. She was on the Peace Research Institute's list of potential names for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2018. She is a Richard von Weizsäcker Fellow at the Bosch Academy in Berlin and a Senior Jackson Fellow at Yale University. She was the first woman to be awarded the national honor of Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic by the government of President Olusegun Obasanjo in 2006. In 2023, she was appointed by President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine as ambassador of the Ukraine government's Grain from Ukraine program. Dr. Oby is a senior advisor at the Africa Economic Development Policy Initiative. She is the founder and president of Human Capital Africa. She founded the Fixed Politics School of Politics, Policy and Governance, SPPG. 50 years after her conversation with her father on fixing Nigeria's governance issues, Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili continues to be a protagonist for good governance in Nigeria and across Africa. Ezekwesili remains a consistent fighter for justice, inclusion, growth, development, prosperity, and stability in Africa. Her story is incredible. She's a woman of incomparable faith who believes that God divinely designed and gave her enormous grace for a purposeful life, blessed her with a purpose-guiding and unforgettable father and mother, guided her into marriage with a kingdom-minded husband who champions her growth, blessed her with purpose-supportive children, siblings, closest friends, and key mentors who have remained part of her life as she celebrates her 60th. Ezekwesili has only but the deepest gratitude for them all.
The joy of being 60 comes from the knowledge of how so rich in human experience my life has been. There is this privilege that I have had, and through the goodness of God.
All right, stop. Can we have another round of applause again? may be seated, please. What a life. What a life. Now, as far back as memory can serve, women have played major roles in the trajectory of politics, religion, society, and life in general. We would all be unclothed right now if it were not for Eve. But we would also not be here with some twins if it were not for Mary Celeste. We would also not be here. Just please give them a round of applause. In different aspects of our society. A lot of you are driving around now with bulletproof vehicles. And the woman who found that invented the bulletproof vehicle is a woman. And there are quite a lot of things that women have done. But if you think back, their advent and their journey in politics has always been one that men do not trust them at all. And women do not trust women. We know how many votes Sarah to bring got during the presidential elections. She had a female campaign manager, she had several people who were managers and working with her. And she got one vote. I guess all of them were thinking, at least if she gets 10 votes, I can say one of them is mine. So trust issues become a major play in politics and in governance. Today we want to talk about women as political leaders. And we'll be having an online contribution to help us drive those conversations. The accelerators of women political leadership with Alice Nelson of Vital Voices and Silvana Koch-Merin of Women Political Leaders will take the conversation further, and they are online right now, I understand. If they can join us quickly. They've been waiting on the wings. Women have played so many roles in changing the direction of political engagement. There was a political leader who said he wanted to just eat porridge and die, and told his son Esau to prepare porridge. One woman overheard the conversation and changed the direction. I think they're here now, they're online. Please, let's welcome them from the hall here. Please give them a round of applause as they join us. They're online to discuss the vital ingredient in accelerating women political leadership. You're welcome. Alice. Is Alice still there? Okay, yeah. Go ahead. We can't hear Alice. She's telling us to zip up or because I heard that before. Alice, maybe you need to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, good morning, and happy birthday. It's so wonderful and a fantastic honor to be with you. And I'm delighted to be able to take part in this important and just fantastic and wonderful celebration of Dr. Oby. And I would like to welcome everybody wherever you are, if you are in Nigeria or elsewhere in the world, in New Zealand where it's in the middle of the night, in the United States where it's in the morning, or where it's in Africa or Europe, sometime in the middle of the day. I'm really pleased and honored to be able to introduce this wonderful and outstanding conversation among women leaders in the appropriate celebration of the dying birthday of our dear and admired Dr. Oby. It's co-hosted by Women Political Leaders and Vital Voices. Well, what better way to acknowledge Dr. Oby's leadership and the political leadership of Dr. Oby. She's a true source of inspiration, of strength, of optimism, of knowledge, a role model to so many of us wherever we are in the world. And WPL, short for Women Political Leaders, which is the global network of women in political office, is really honored to have Dr. Oby as the chair of its board. The mission of WPL is to increase the number and the influence of women in political leadership. And I am Silvana Kochmeri, the founder and president of WPL. Well, the objective of this session, which is now following, is to dedicate some time to hear from some of the world's most outstanding women leaders about the key factors that accelerate the growth of women participation in politics. We have some trailblazing leaders with us, from whom we will hear, who themselves embody this term of acceleration. And I would like to welcome on behalf of WPL and Vital Voices to celebrate Dr. Oby, the two leaders that are present, and the third one who is present with us in her thoughts and in her doings at her Ellen Johnson Searle Center for Leadership. And let me start with a quote from Ellen Johnson Searle, who was the first elected woman head of state in all of Africa, where she took office in 2006 in Liberia and was re-elected in 2011. She once said, "If you're not scared of your dreams, they are not big enough." And if we can learn something of the leaders that we will hear from in the next half an hour, it's that being scared was never an option. It did not hold them back. They just went on and did what they did to the highest standards possible and inspired and encouraged so many women around the world to try to do the best and to not be scary themselves. So we have with us today Helen Clark, and Helen was the Prime Minister of New Zealand from 1999 to 2008, which means that she was 2 times re-elected, which is an important fact to mention, of course. After that, after a time as Prime Minister, she was the first woman to lead UNDP, and then she also ran in 2016 to become the Secretary General of the United Nations. There hasn't been a woman yet. At that time, in 2016, WPL conducted a survey in its network, and indeed more than 90% of the women politicians around the world thought it is high time for a woman to lead the United Nations. Helen was the chair of the WPL board in the past 4 years. Thank you again for this, Helen. She continues her tremendously important work here at WPL, but of course in many other roles, be it at the World Health Organization, Women Deliver, and whatever she does, she always is and remains committed to more women in leadership. The other outstanding leader that we will have the opportunity and honor to hear from is Her Excellency Joyce Banda. She was, of course, as you all know, the president of Malawi from 2012 to 2014, and she was Malawi's first woman president. Again, being scared was not an option. She witnessed and overcame many threats and personal risks, but this did not discourage her from standing up for what she believes in. With her Joyce Banda Foundation, she focuses on education and economic empowerment of women. Much needed, much accomplished. Thank you very much. And now it's my great pleasure to hand over to Elise Nelson, President and CEO of Vital Voices, to moderate and chair this conversation. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Silvana. It's an honor to be joining you and the political leaders and Congratulations on all the phenomenal work that you do to get more women into positions of power and accessing opportunity and making the lives of people around the world so much better. And Dr. Oby, huge congratulations. I can't tell you how honored all of us at Vital Voices, your whole Vital Voices family and network is around the world to be celebrating your diamond birthday. And really, more than celebrating those 60 well-lived years, really celebrating what you stand for and what you've been fighting for, the legacy that you've been building. And I think that all of us would agree that there is this new weight, new urgency behind your leadership. I think never before has it been so clear just how much is at stake, and certainly what I've learned over the last 26 years working with women leaders through Vital Voices on the front lines of change, and that you certainly have taught me, is that true leaders know we can't afford to wait for that perfect moment, right? Or even a better moment to call out injustice or defend our values or forge a new path. So I am incredibly honored to be joined in this conversation celebrating your birthday with the former president of New Zealand, Helen Clark, and former president of Malawi, Dr. Joyce Banda, both of whom we've had the pleasure to work with, and I think so impressed at how both of them have used their platform, their voice, their power to really empower. And we'll get to legacy in just a moment, but in welcoming both of you, as we look around the world, we see a rising tide of authoritarian regimes that are really threatening democracy. And I think seeing women as a threat to some of their tactics. We can look to Sudan, we can look to the unprovoked invasion of Ukraine by Russia, so many places around the world. And I want to turn first to you, Helen Clark. I did, of course, ask them permission to use first names in this conversation. But Helen, I wanted to ask you, what is the value of women's leadership, particularly right now, both in politics, but actively on the front lines in civil society? Why are the values that women bring as leaders so critically important right now?
Well, firstly, women's voices have to be heard. We make up roughly half the population of every country, but we haven't held anything like that proportion of seats at the top tables in most countries. My own country's got to gender equal parliament and gender equal cabinet, but this is pretty unusual around the world. For the most part, women are still significantly excluded from decision making. Now, secondly, I think that the women do bring a different style of leadership and in general show characteristics which have men adopted too are helpful. Women are much more likely to show empathy, much more likely to be people-centered, less narcissistic, more likely to look for the best advice and weigh the evidence, less likely to be top-down authoritarian, more likely to be collegial, first among equals. There are a lot of different characteristics about the way women operate, which can make them very, very effective, bringing the networking experiences they have from life outside politics and into politics. So, you know, we've just been, we haven't really come out the other side of the COVID-19 pandemic. We saw women's leadership skills on display during that pandemic. The women actually, in a very difficult situation, by and large, did pretty well. Some men did well too, but the women in general did quite well. And it was because of that empathy, that putting people first, the willingness to communicate, the willingness to listen, the willingness to weigh evidence, to try and make the best decisions. And we just need more of that kind of leadership around our world today. Back to you, Rose.
Thank you. And Dr. Joyce Banda, you and I met back in 2012, right after you had ascended from vice president to president. That was a very scary time for you, I know. And talk about, you know, the perfect moment to lead, you know, that perfect moment will come, you have to take it. Talk a little bit about that transition and how you were able to take power against such difficult odds, against violence and threats, how you were able to take power, but then also how you were able to transform power as a woman leading your country.
I think it is important in this conversation. I must say thank you very much for having me this afternoon, and we had a good to see you again. It is important about to give a background so that we take it into context. The difficulties that we are talking about. I was elected as along with my president as running mate in 2000. During the campaign, he told Malawi he was going to take over from him. It was obvious the way we won. Nobody has won by 60%, and nobody may never do in the future. It was very clear at that moment. It was a grassroots report that did that. And everybody in Malawi that you meet, I am associated with grassroots because that is my constituency. I believe that leadership is a love affair. You must fall in love with the people yourself, and the people must fall in love. But in my particular case, it's Europe. Everybody knows, women and girls. So by that, when we won, it just moved for the country to see that we had been killed as women when it wasn't only me. And the president had changed everything he had made during the campaign about my participation in the presidency. So much so that by the time, by 2012, when he was passing away, I had been 1 year without being even invited to cabinet. So I didn't know much of what was taking place because he told me the moment we got into office that you need to endorse my brother, then you can sit and be a ceremonial vice president. And I said, no, but that wasn't the promise you made to Malawians. I'm not going to be a ceremonial vice president. I'm going to establish you and take over from you. Because of that disagreement, I ignored and set aside, and I was on my own for the longest time. So one day, on 5th of April, Good Friday, somebody just whispered to me to say, look, it looks like the president has collapsed. In a normal situation, the Constitution says if the president is incapacitated, even when he has not died, the vice president shall call the first meeting of cabinet and then write a letter to the speaker until he gets well, she acts in that position. If he's dead, she'll take oath. Well, there was no information to me. I'm sitting in the house. Nobody has told me whether he's alive or not. In the evening of April 5, I phoned the State House to speak to the president. Because at that moment, nobody has told me whether he's dead or not. And I said, I want to wish the president well. I'm told that he is very, very ill. Because nobody has told me. But I didn't realize that preparing, smuggle the body out. He had died on his way to the hospital. So when I came, started off in the evening, he died 6 hours. So the pilot refused to take a dead body because it was an air ambulance. So he said, I had come to it. Back and forth with the president of South Africa, aid them allowed me to take out the body at night under a horse neck. So he went out as done for him, so that people can know. The following day, which is day 6, Malawians are still being made to believe but he has not died. But then we started to get the information from networks like CNN. So at that point, I called the audience to tell them we're heading for a constitutional crisis. It is very important when talking to women that are potential leaders in the future, build an international effort to have private voices, to have former presidents, to have defense people that know you, that will stand by you. Because at that moment, I started calling those. And some of those, one of them, General Richard Mars, of the US, was head of the SIP. So we're calling head of defense, and urging him to battle shots according to the constitution. Day 6, nobody tells me anything, but I have now summoned all to tell them what I thought was happening. In the meantime, the cabinet was meeting without me, and they met without me and chose another person, not me. And so I wrote a letter to the cabinet. Then, they and so within an hour of the meeting with diplomats, the letter invited the chief secretary, please to her residence to ask what was going on. There's one point of it. Meanwhile, I'm still just sitting at the So after that happened, the chief secretary called me and said, well, let now the diplomats now to pay first speak to the nation. I said, now to tell them what, or tell the nation that the president is getting well, that he will return to Malawi soon. And so that's exactly what I did. I called a press conference and announced to the Malawi nation, not panic, the president is recovering and he'll be back in Malawi soon. But I wanted to say, in the meantime, be comforted by the fact that you are in capable hands. So it is that phrase that got everyone excited. Somebody called that meeting that was going on, who said she has declared herself in charge and that Malawians are in capable hands. So they then put together a team of cabinet ministers to go on Malawi Broadcasting Corporation, one more press conference, and that took place at midnight of day 6. And that is why, when they were arrested, because later on this had a commission of inquiry, and at the end of it all, the ministers who gave this midnight press conference, telling Malawians, don't listen to Joyce Banda, she's out of her mind, there's no way she can be in charge of it. And the president is okay and is coming back. They were arrested and they are caught even now, and even in the court, like 6. So the midnight 6, Malawians, the president is still alive. Day 7 in the morning, I phoned the president of South Africa. And I told him, I phoned every hospital in South Africa. Nobody tells me where my president is. And I want you to tell me what you know about this. If you don't, then I will assume that you are interfering in Malawi affairs. So I think it took an hour. By 8 o'clock, day 7th of April, that I was told, I called the chief secretary, who I had written to the other day, who had just phone, to say that you told me to speak to the nation the other day. I want you now to tell me the truth. Is my president alive or not? He said, oh, in fact, he has passed away. Because I'm told the president of South Africa called them in Malawi to say, you are on your own, come and take your body. So they told me, we are going to be announcing death. And I said, well, he has just died? Yes, he has just died today. Yes, sir. This man had been in the Malawi, but the defense was more than days. So that death must be announced. And in a normal situation, it would be the vice president announcing that day. But they refused to allow me to be part of the delegation announced the passing of the president. So now, at the end of the day, they have announced it. So now we are talking about the president who is gone. Now, all the complications about how he went there or not, that will be for later. But now we have a dead president. So who takes over? They had already chosen another president the day before. But they asked the Minister of Justice to get an injunction to bar me from taking off. In the meantime, all the ministers and everybody and the Chief Justice were sitting at their new house, brothers' residence, waiting for the minister to return from them so they can swear me right there. In the meantime, the judge at the court was nowhere to come. Whether conveniently, or whether it was coincidence or whatever, since it was a long Easter weekend, but there was no judge. So they were just sitting at the court. In the meantime, I phoned the army commander. And I phoned General Biro and told him to come to my residence. Because I asked the chief secretary in the morning, come here to announce death with me. He says, I can only come to the house if the commander is there. So when I asked my husband, who is also one of the best lawyers Malawi has, he said, well, I think that he doesn't want to come because he believes that the army commander is the one that brings sanity. There's all these press conferences and stuff. So anyway, I then thought it was because of that I phoned them and I asked him to come. Now, if you read the Commission of Inquiry, he didn't tell me, it is in the report. They had spent that whole night, all the six, pushing him, take over for me, even if it means killing me, but take government and hand over to them. Because now they knew I'm going to be a problem because of the press conferences I'm holding as well. But he resisted. So when I said, can you please come? He said, I'm coming. I said, yesterday I told you didn't come. He says, no, you don't even have to persuade. I'm on my way. I didn't know, I know now, that the international community had been phoning him throughout the night, and that he had resisted this call throughout the night by elimination. But he came and found that they had already removed my security. I didn't have a car, I didn't have police, I didn't have anything. So anybody could have done anything to me. We call it 72 hours. In fact, if it is a book, we call it 72 hours. It is a film, it is 72 hours. In those 72 hours, I had no security. When the army commander got to my house, he asked, where is your protection? I said, I didn't know. So he called the army barracks, and that is the first time in 3 days, 72 hours, that I felt secure, as I saw them coming in trucks, jumping out with guns to surround my house for my safety. And so at that point, now people don't know what is going to happen. And I'm sitting at home. Now I am with the army commander, so I'm feeling very comfortable. It is the army commander that phoned the inspector general. Where are you? He says, I'm sitting with our future president. We are waiting for the minister to return from court, that he jump so he can take off. So I'm sitting here. So the army commander says there will be no swearing in where you're sitting. And I'm giving you 15 minutes to get prepared for the chief.
Dr. Banda, I know this is an incredible story, and I think we make this point that this international network, being able to call on friends around the world is critical. And I know that for example,
so at that moment, they came to the house now. Now all the Attorney General, they organized the first cabinet meeting, and all the decisions they had made were received. And I was allowed to take off at night. So the importance of keeping your international networks that will come in handy when you need them increases.
And Carmen, I know that you are also a member of the Council of Human Rights Leaders, a group of current and former women heads of state. And I wondered if you could talk a bit of the value of that network, both in ways that you can give back, but also in ways that you can connect. Because what we know is that it's difficult and lonely to be the leader of the country, particularly as a woman. So can you talk a little bit, building on what Dr. Banda said about the value of those networks?
Well, I think as women political leaders, we can give back. Joyce and I are from a generation where we were the first to do a lot of things. I was the first woman leader of a major political party in New Zealand, and the second of 3 women prime ministers. And I think our combined legacy as women prime ministers, which has been about 2/3 of the last 25 years in New Zealand, has been for young women to see that it's possible for women to go all the way. I think one of the most valuable things we can do as role model, and we can be available to speak with, advise, mentor, if you like, others who are interested in taking on this sort of career. Politics is pretty rough in any country. Joyce's experience that she's just related is particularly rough, but even in little, relatively placid democratic societies like New Zealand, the politics is robust. And women really wonder, should I go in or not? And the answer is yes, you have to go in, because if you don't, bring women's perspectives into the debate, and you don't, change the kinds of issues that are prioritised. So I think that's one of the most valuable things we can do. And of course, the experiences we have are of interest beyond our national borders, because each country has its unique context. But women's stories resonate across geographical boundaries, which I guess is why we're being asked to speak today in an event largely in celebrating Obi's wonderful life, representing her country, Nigeria.
I think there is now certainly the research that shows that, women will bring, their community and the concerns of their families, into their political life, right? So they will be more representative voices. But one of the sort of disturbing trends that we've seen is that although we've seen a slow but steady rise of women running for and gaining political office around the world, we now have seen a bit of a dip in the last couple of years, and certainly we could blame COVID and think, oh, it'll bounce back. But I think there's something else going on here, and I would say, one of the concerns that we've been hearing from women leaders, women political leaders around the world, is a rising tide of online violence, disinformation, and particularly targeting women, overly sexualized, incredible threats against them. And, I wonder, Helen, if you have thoughts about how we might safeguard, I know obviously technology.
Recording in progress.
Do on this, but what more can countries do as well to provide and encourage more women to run for political office, but also really to push back against this disinformation and online threats?
Well, the online trolling threats is ghastly. People have noticed that, in the last 4 months or so, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, who was a young woman leader, stood down, and she came under just intense pressure. I think there was a spillover from the toxic phenomenon around QAnon, anti-vaccination elements coming out of the US, but this tends to go global. Now, there's always been misogynist elements in our societies, but with social media they get a whole new sort of freedom to operate, if you like, because social media is largely ungoverned. You try to get a complaint upheld on Twitter, it was enough before it's almost impossible now. So people are just free to defame, spread hate messages, and the research is now showing that women are disproportionately targeted by this kind of activity. So women going into politics these days need nerves of steel and a pretty thick skin, because, but take comfort from what I say, that these people have always been out there, and they're probably no more numerous than they ever were. It's just they have different platforms, so you should ignore them and block them and don't let them get in your way. As to what could be done about it more formally, it is difficult. In my country, we have a media standards board that governs the broadcasting and media, television and radio. It's a statutory agency. There's also a media council which upholds standards in the press, in the print media, and that's self-regulation. But there's nothing governing the internet spaces. And I think it would be interesting to see what the European Union will do in this area, because we often look to the EU to work through and develop, standards for governance in particularly complex situations. In a small democratic society, you don't want to cut off legitimate debate and freedom of expression, but there is a point at which things spill over into hate, where it is very divisive and toxic and even dangerous in a society. So some kind of bespoke regulation is called for that doesn't constrain, fair and constructive opinion, but does say there's a line here that if you crossed it on TV and radio, for example, it would not have been allowed. A difficult challenge.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. It's interesting when you talk about a thicker skin. I remember when Madeleine Albright became the first Secretary of State, one of our founders, in the United States back in the mid-1990s. And there was so much criticism, and I remember she went on Oprah Winfrey's show, and Oprah said to her, how do you, I hate criticism, how do you manage all the criticism we get? And of course, this is in the mid-90s, really before social media, so nothing like what we see today. And I loved her response. She said, some of you may think I got a thicker skin, but actually, some of you may think some of you may think I gained a few pounds, but actually it's just a thicker skin. I love that. So you obviously have to have a bit of humor as well, in these difficult times. Joyce, I want to come back to you. You have been a long champion of women and girls, and I know certainly utilized your platform as president to work on child marriage, eradicating child marriage, to work on rights of women and girls, combating violence against women. Can you talk a little bit about that and why it is so important for women to do that? I mean, I remember just reflecting back again on Madeleine Albright, and I have to use that as my barometer because, of course, in the United States, we've not yet had a woman president. But that was very breakthrough to have a woman, foreign minister, secretary of state. That was a big first. And I do remember there was so much criticism and people, even a lot of backlash when she would try to take on and push forward, women's issues, right? But why is that so critical, right? For you to use your platform as a woman leader to fight for the issues and for those who have no voice.
Yeah, but can you allow me to take a minute or two to respond to President Kasti about media, about taking on women in the media, because the response that she gave is for those that are non-African. What do I mean? I mean that at least in New Zealand and the other countries, they are coming up with legislation. They are coming up with controls, which is what should happen. But there are so many of us here in Africa who are just suffering in silence. So social media, propaganda, smear campaign, fake news is the thing. And the problem is that there are so many who will believe. I've had this conversation with the Deputy Secretary. I've had this conversation with policy. I've had this conversation with the fellow women leaders. And I think because there are young women leaders listening to us, what I advise, and then what I was advised, which I didn't know how to do, is to fight back. To put together a team as well, to respond timely, to take news, because when you just allow that fake news then people believe that. But when they see you're countering, then they have the ability to have an independent opinion on the matter. So for the longest time, I didn't know what to do. So I just left it and hoped that it would just die out. My advice would be, as I have been And so I made a little decision, and it wasn't when I was any leader or anything. At 31, I decided that it was my mission to assist internally, the police requirement, business and education. What has happened now, in this position now, is that it has been action. For me, it's a moral obligation to do this. And there is no way we are in a class of a share wants to, but you cannot call yourself a leader if you cannot reach out and touch another little girl and bring her up. So that for me is like whether I am in the State House or not.
Thank you.
I know we're screaming
I
like
know
we're
it is
keeping
getting
records.
quite late,
That's the
in
last
fact,
time
quite
we're
early in the
going to
morning now, 1:30 in the morning.
That's
For
why
Helen Clark, I just want to turn back to you for one last intervention here. Really, welcome your message
I'm talking to
to
you.
Dr. Oby. It is, of course,
I'm talking to you. You know it's unethical for you to go through that parameter, right? You are recording and then you are entering a live shot.
What is your message?
I'm also
your
doing
parting
live
words
show. Guys,
as
my
we
boss are
You
wrap
don't
up?
get me. So is it right for you to do
Well,
that?
my
For
parting
national
message
TV and
to
you're
all
working
is
with
that
me?
sex
I'm
is
just
the
going
new
to,
water.
I can't. It's not true. I don't do it again. If you do it, I'll ask you to do it. It's not right. I'm just trying to say you are a professional. You're not supposed to do it.
That's why I went down. Just giving
And people know
That's what I'm
that
trying to
you're
say.
around
I
your
don't have a
other
problem.
doors.
This is my job. I don't have a problem of you
That's my
doing it.
message.
Don't enter into the shop. This thing is live. I mean, I'm seeing
Thank
you
you.
inside my
And
See,
turn to
wherever
you
is okay.
now.
Like, if you can take a shot from here, it's okay.
Joyce,
Don't
what
just
are
go into the
what are
main
your
camera
parting
shots. We're
words?
live.
that person there, I'm working for him too. So I need to capture him too, properly.
Is it the person that brought us here? It does not matter. There's no location.
I don't receive her.
You keep talking about the person. I'm working
I don't know
for
if
you.
you want her to make it something else.
It's okay. I understand.
Well,
You get
we
me?
would love that.
You
I
understand
am
me?
going to also
Saying
let
everybody came with their own camera.
Helen
Everybody has to
depart.
be
I'm going
coordinated.
to
But always have to so it's not that fight people have a president that is. And if I hadn't done that, I would be here. So walking is something as a sister, but I also special recognition of the work that she's doing in the area of education, in the area of girls' protection, and continuing to provide advice to people like you. May God bless her and may she have many, many more years.
And I see that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, former president of Liberia, Nobel laureate, is here with us. And we only have a few more minutes, but I did want to turn to you and would love your reflections and really, I think, words of wisdom as we celebrate Obi's diamond birthday.
Thank you. Oby, this is a personal message from me to you. You're quite aware that I had a conflict today with some 32 dynamic African women in their forum discussing their own plans for leadership in our continent. Joyce also was a member of that. And I was glad that both of us sat in this meeting, met, and I'm glad she did to represent the both of us when she came here. And I'm here. I'm here, Oby, because I said to you, you know what I had to do and how long it took to recognize you for your contribution is something I could not miss. And that if it just meant 2 minutes of time to say to you, how because of your contribution to the development of Africa, because of the position you have taken for the promotion and the protection of women, those 25 women today committed themselves to follow the footsteps that you thought of in the time that you have served. It's 50 years young. And so I'll say to you, and to all of them, it's time for change for women, and you are a part of that change to whom we look for. Oh, I even gave you 10 years for somebody that, well, that's all right, you deserve 10 years if upon continue to be active and instrumental and motivating to all the young women.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you so much for those words of wisdom and yes, absolute words of praise for Dr. Oby. I think the greatest lesson you taught all of us at Vital Voices, and I'm sure many others, is that power's highest purpose is collective progress. And the value you brought is really moving people, uniting us across our differences and our common struggle for that purpose and for a better world. So thank you, Dr. Oby. We've been honored to be part of this conversation. Thank you, Dr. Joyce Banda. Thank you, President Johnson Sirleaf. We are truly, truly honored and humbled to have been part of this. And I wish you the very best for the rest of the gathering.
Let's keep the applause going for all of them, please. Keep the applause going. In-depth conversation, organic issues. Thank you so much. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, conversations like these are hard, but they must be hard. Apart from the fact that we're celebrating an iconic lady as, you know, because I call her auntie, it is hard to mention her name, but I like when you have the opportunity to call their names like they are your mates. Obiageli, how are you? It just feels so fine, you know, just Obiageli, Oby. I know, but once I get out of this place, I don't have that privilege anymore, so I'm enjoying it. So Obiageli is a very good girl. So far, ladies and gentlemen, what has the big got to do with this? Oh, I'm not seeing you, sir. Your campaign went mathematical 71. Even stammerers know how to count it. Someone trying to sing the thing. I said that we don't reach 80. We don't. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are going to a different kind of presentation. Most times people think poetry is just an art. No, but it is not. Activism is involved in poetry. Reality is involved in poetry. Poetry most times even speaks about the things that we do not know. I remember the first time I came across a poem by Wole Soyinka on Abiku. There are quite a lot of women who had had the issue of stillbirth. And everybody just talked about the pain of the woman who had the issue. But nobody realized that the stillbirth child could also say something. Until Wole Soyinka wrote Abiku and said, I am calling for the third and the repeated time. And people then saw a different story. Poetry speaks to our minds, speaks to our culture, speaks to our heritage. And so today, ladies and gentlemen, there's a special presentation by Chisom Ezugbo and Kenilum Jehovah, Kenichi Ajayi. And would like to have that special song rendition after the poetry by Chisom Ezugbo. Where's Chisom? Please give a round of applause to Chisom. Is Chisom around? Okay. All right, so I'll then invite Kenichi Ajayi for a special presentation. That's true. She's going to sing. Go ahead. And after her rendition, I have a song that I want to also deliver.
Can I love Jehovah, did he love me, had in mind? Can I love Jehovah, did he care what he made? Can I love Jehovah, did he love me, has he raised? Can I love Jehovah, did he care what he made? Hosanna, Tiri, what can you do? Only one and I am in the Hosanna, Tiri, what can you do? Only one and I am in the
For those of you who don't speak Igbo, the song speaks to the greatness of God who created all things, and to him all praise must be. All right? And then for those of you who don't understand English, inclusiveness. Ladies and gentlemen, the next performance is from Uche Okoro. Uche Okoro? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Uche Okoro, all my life you've been faithful.
See, this now was like so you didn't do the. Let us ask something. I hope they will listen. Because I see the movie. See, I see the smile, they will capture everything.
You
time, I feel like collecting offering. But the problem is that somebody sitting in front of that doesn't give shit. Those kind of uncles that you pass offering basket to, you look at it and pass to the next person. Now, the last performance is we're going opera. It's interesting that when gathering is here, I just want you to know that every time you see Nigerians gather for united purpose and unity of purpose, it is because we are all gathering for greatness, we're gathering for excellence. No tribe, no distinctions, no tribalistic tones, just because we're Nigerians and we like excellence. And so just to ask, how many of you here are from the north? How many of you here are from the west? How many of you here are from the east? There's a particular guy that is raising his hand from west, north. Are you a custom officer? No, I don't understand. I said north, you raise hand, west, you raise hand. Oh, it's a complete Nigeria. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there's a serious issue that we need to talk about now, and that is the very core part of this conversation that we're having. And it's the integration conversation. Intergenerational conversation. I'll tell you why it is important. In 2017, my dad came to my place and spent 2 months. And within that time, the children were on holidays. I woke up in the morning and I saw that my sons were playing PS3. Oh, I flipped. They didn't wash cars, they didn't clean the house, they were playing PS3. I screamed, what is wrong with you people? What is this? And my dad comes out of his room and said, calm down. You're shouting, why? And I'm looking at this man that used to beat us for just anything at all. But in any case, there's a lot more of these conversations that we'll be having today so that we can bridge the gap. So before then, we're talking about the national engagement. Now let's have Nagode at Beach. Please give me a round of applause.
Let's
Right. So I was telling you, Your Excellencies, the issues of the conversation that should be had to bridge the intergenerational gap, very important. And when I try to tell my children how much, because my dad is a retired military man, how much bells I enjoyed while I was growing up, how many walls I faced, they don't get it. Let me ask you a question. How many of you here that were growing up, when you were growing up, will walk into the room when your dad is watching 88 news? 81 channel, there's only one channel on the TV, and change it. Now the children just walk into your room and change it to Cartoon Network. And you tell them, but I'm watching something, but I want to watch. But the thing is, this conversation has to be had. And the reason we have to have this conversation is so that we both understand ourselves. To help us drive this conversation today, I would like to invite Dr. Amina Salihu, the Pioneer Dean of School of Politics and Policy.
Indeed, it's a day of Nagudi. It is said in Hausa, Tuangirma Nia Sanama. I'd like to ask those in the room who can translate that to begin to do so. But to say that you do not have a big masquerade in the room and you praise them by half, the Almighty God is in this room, and we're grateful for the honor of this week. Dear magnificent audience, welcome to an intergenerational dialogue titled Character, Competence and Capacity, Living a Life of Impact. We will be having what we call a village square style conversation, because our honoree today is someone who is very rooted, very connected. And so some of us, as in village square style, will be on stage, and some of us will be in the audience. Let me begin inviting some of these mentees of our great honoree. Themselves, they have become mentors, because it is said in Yoruba, and so they themselves are emerging icons. First up, Lois Auta, a strong voice of change and global advocate on disability rights. Dave Oboye, energy expert, political advisor, member of the SDP District 2 class. Shehu Onibide, data and tech in the public interest, Rachel also, co-founder and global director of a widely respected budget. Joyce Daniel, versatility personified, entrepreneur, and incredible compare, member of the SDP District 2 class. And Yemi Adamoleku, award-winning civil society activator and activist, CEO, Enough is Enough, faculty, Stream 1 member. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is also said, Nneka, mother is supreme. I now have the honor to invite our mother, our friend, our leader, innovator, founder, executive, public servant for excellence, multi-award winner, Nobel Peace Prize nominee, citizen of the world, and a style icon to boot. Most importantly for this conversation, our transgenerational mentor, Dr. Oby Ezekwesili. I believe now we can. We have just 40 minutes for this conversation, and we're going to make it count. Lois, let me begin with a story that our honorary once told us about her mom, her beautiful mom. Let me rest my soul. Mommy said to our honorary, "You're named Obiageli, born into wealth. So you really should just enjoy yourself and have fun. But you have chosen to take on the hardest questions and challenges of the world. Why is this so? What a family."
We often tell great stories about your parents. It is clear that they played a very significant role in your life. Could you share your perspective on how nurture influences character formation?
First, I just want to thank every one of you that came out today to be part of this symposium, and especially to acknowledge its values. They would give us knowledge through education, and that they would give us their name. And they said to us that these three things, not any landed asset, not any bank account, would not any bank account would give us the head start and take us far in life. And we saw that. We saw that. We saw constant barraging with values. I mean, I hardly say anything without saying my dad said to me, my mom said to us, because it was a daily barrage of values. But it was not just in the statement they made, it was in living the values before us. So values, and then they gave us this education. We didn't even realize what it took to give 9 children, because he inherited 5 of my first cousins who are not cousins, they are my siblings. So we were 9 that needed to be taken through education. And then he gave us his name. And today, God knows that those 3 things have taken us far.
Indeed, they have taken me very far. Something that amazes me is how our honoree does so many things and does them so well. Dave, is that something you have noticed as well?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Amina. I've been meaning to ask her this question all this while. By the way, 60 looks good on you. It's the new 40 really. I'll be coming for some secrets later. To be born was not a choice you made, but the investments that made you such a gift to Nigeria and to our world was a choice you made. And you made this choice amidst many commitments and responsibilities. You are a beautiful wife of a contented Pastor Obiageli Oby Ezekwesili. You are Mama Ejima. You are a policy formulator and advocate. You are an activist. You are a global peace ambassador. All this in one person. It appears as if some people missed out on their purposes. And since God wouldn't let those spaces go unfilled, He added the assignments to yours. How are you able to juggle all of these things up and still maintain this unique cutting edge that makes you Oby Ezekwesili?
Oh my goodness, how many hours do we have?
Just give me a short thesis.
Well, I think that, and Amina knows, because Amina has known me for quite a considerable number of years. I think that the significant thing that our dad especially did for us was this understanding purpose. He used to say to us, anything that is created must function based on the purpose for which it is created.
Actually, the people at home that are listening to the signing ladies need.
They need me to be looking somewhere?
No, we need the chair by you so that as you're signing, you check. As you're signing, as you're speaking, she can be signing.
Okay. So does she need to be? Okay. Please clap for us. Thank you.
Camera. All right. So
are we good? Good. Excellent. So he talked about everything created having purpose. And that if anything that is created is not maximizing the fulfillment of that purpose, it has no business being around. So that really ministered to us. And so on that understanding, one of the things that subsequently happened was when we had the redemption experience, when we gave our lives to Jesus, my husband and I, and we understood even deeper the issues of purpose. And that understanding took me into some revelation of being a woman, that there are at least 5 realities that I must fulfill. I must fulfill the reality of myself as a unique individual. And that means in that capacity, I can be anything I choose to be in life. And that's always the point my father made to us, his daughters. You can be anything. You can be anything. And that was important. And then my second reality was my reality as a daughter of our parents, of my dad and my mom. There's a reality there that requires you to be something. And then my reality as a sibling of my brothers and my sister. And then my reality ultimately as a wife and reality as a mother. In each of these realities, I understood that there were purposes to fulfill. And if my father said that anyone of anything created that is not fulfilling its purpose ought not to be around, I decided, I want to be around. And I'm going to fulfill every reality that is attendant to my being Oby Ezekwesili. So I try to do it every at a time.
And you did so well, yes, you did so well. And something that I've always loved about you is your courage to be vulnerable. Sharing, I have seen our founder cry tears of joy. I have seen her cry tears of exasperation at sheer incompetence that's avoidable. Have you also experienced that in that kind of situation?
That's an every moment experience. I would say, because anytime we talk, we first say it's been a while we kept up, maybe you disappear often, and now you're calling me. Then we go a little bit about work, then the next thing we go all over Nigeria. It's not easy. Our tributes will be passed, so we'll be able to read a little part of mine, like being exhausted. But she's a beacon of hope and of values for a lot of us. And she always said that thing, dignified by my dad, who told me, validated by my dad, who told me not to dignify nonsense. Very, very touchy. She always thinks she applies alone to her, but applies to all of us. My question is, we are in a very complex world where values are sacrosanct. But we're actually in a world where it could cause us to ask questions about, can we truly stand at all times? Because of the challenges and the difficulty in navigating the difficult environments. But you've always kept your own personality on the altar of integrity, stewardship, purpose, service. How have you been able to carry that persona? How have you been able to stand strong? I remember reading El-Rufai's book, The Accidental Public Servant. And there was a point in how it continuously referred you, as someone who stood for immense integrity. And I just want to ask that question. For people who are young, we have a bit of long, they're in activity now, it's interesting, but maybe as you navigate forward, you don't know where you're going. How do you keep values strong?
Two things that, again, that always emphasized was that every individual has the power of choice. He just made sure we understood that. Because he said that the person who understands that, he could lose, and we would all laugh at him for losing. And then, if you won, then you're the one who got that is extra meat in his bill. So in many ways, it was a home where we had a father figure and the mom, a supportive mom. For example, what my mom was, especially when I was growing up, was the restraining factor. Because I would say to my dad, if I left her this girl alone, it would spoil her completely. And she would not realize that she's going to get married and she's going to have to carry children. So they were quite in raising us.
So important. And are you up there with our dear Pastor Chidi? Every time I hear Pastor call our honoring baby, they are members of the village. Thank you for finding her. Yes, please. So give me your
afternoon, everyone. My name is David Obiageli Oby, and I'm the head prefect of Spring Public Secondary School. First of all, I'd like to say I'm
purpose every day is God. And I don't talk about God loosely. I do have this sense of God. And it makes the biggest difference in my life. And so, understanding that has helped me to sort of stay the course. If it is something that I know that this is how the Lord would have me stand, it wouldn't matter where any other person stood. For as long as it is God, I'm just going to keep going. And so that strength is inner. It comes from an inner place. And then it is supported. First, it was supported by my parents when they were here. It is now supported by my husband so much, and then by my incredible sons and my siblings, and so many great mentors that have been there with me all the while. But I keep my eyes on my purpose, and I don't in any way look to the right or look to the left. I just face the goal of my purpose. And on the question of how have I done the things of trying to get more women into in an inclusive way into leadership. Well, one thing that many of the ones who call me auntie, who call me mom, who call me anything, who call me their mentor, one thing they know is that I just say to the girls, you have no business thinking that you were coming into the world and the Lord said, here you are, a woman, take half the brain of your man. He didn't say that to you. So I don't want you to walk around the world behaving as if you need permission in order to be the great person that you've been created. And in all the assignments, that I have done, I have made sure to include women. I totally, absolutely believe in the power of women to get things done. Even a lot of the men that are here know that this is true. At the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, would you believe that most of the people who run the school are women? On our faculty, we have plenty of women. I have equal number of girls and women that I mentor. When I was Minister of Education, I was accused of discriminating against the men, and I was denying it. And then suddenly it hit me that, wait a minute, what are you denying? The women just did so well, and they found themselves in the positions. And for the first time in the life of an organization, men are the ones complaining. They don't complain, no.
That's so. Indeed, thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Melissa. Because a round of applause for our young students. We're going to be inviting a young chap very soon. Village Square. So, our honorary talked about everyone having brains to do what is right. Oh, I love that. I love that pose. This is the stock memories I made of this excellent conversation. Jenny and Nadine, just hold on a sec. Jenny, Nadine, hold on a sec. Let's have all three of you. And then you post your question. Nadine, hold on a sec. Let's have all three of you. And then you post your question this one and then.
Okay, sit the way you were before. You just stand behind Madam.
Now you're paparazzi.
We haven't done anything about the country on improving the quality of teachers, which had been a problem because majority of the teachers in primary and secondary school were teacher certificate grade 2 holders. And some 20 years before I was minister, it was said that we needed to do away with that. We needed to upgrade the teachers' certification and their basic professionalism. to be in the classroom, but it was not implemented. When I became minister, one of the key things we designed was an appreciation of the quality of teachers. So we moved to just take over 140-something thousand teachers across the country to move them to that minimum of NCE, that is National Certificate in Education, and then a BA or BSc in Education. So all the colleges of education, as well as the National Teachers Institute, were very important in a massive upgrade. We called it the Teacher Upgrade Program. That was important for making sure that children would actually learn. Because data, as now research shows, that when we have quality teachers in the classroom, there is a greater probability. More than 40% of what happens in learning is determined by the quality of the teacher, and then another more than 20 to 25% is determined by the teaching methods, not just quality, but just knowing how to teach. And so we started a professionalizing of teaching so that we could bring the kind of coaching that teachers needed in order to be effective teachers. And then so many things like bringing accountability to the education sector through the Community Accountability and Transparency Initiative. During my time, we then did the first comprehensive inspection of schools, secondary schools. We called it Operation Reach All Secondary Schools. We had a number of initiatives that also have to do with making sure that the use of data, because we are a continent that we don't use data in policy making. And the difference between those who make progress in development and those who don't is the lack of use of evidence, of data in policy making. During my time, we had to change that. Absolutely. And that's how come we have what we call the Nigeria Education Management Information System. So in summary, because I do hear this question, we're a society that likes to see people that build concrete, they build classroom, they build toilets, they build fences. What they don't know is that most of those things, when they prioritize those construction, it is for contract award. I had no time for that in education. I was interested in the things about policy, in the things about programs that would mean that our children are learning, including the kinds of skills and the knowledge that we needed to be competitive with the rest of the world.
Absolutely. We need an entire symposium for the excellent work and lessons and legacy that you left in education, such minerals everywhere where you have been. And I know if we allow the audience ask the question, Madam due process will also show up there. I'm very sure of that. So, Joyce, once we went together this, and she was holding a fashion magazine, just to tell you how very versatile she is. I called her a style icon earlier. You can see the style icon. And then she said to all of us, and I think our Vice Chancellor, I go to hold us in there. Wow, I just realized that Beyonce and Wizkid and Blue Ivy have just won the Best Music Video Grammy. And I looked at her like, sure? I mean, if you know who Jeje with this our founder, she's a big passion. The reason why I looked at this is that you're able to give us the clarity in terms of the work you have done, because you understand every side and every view of life. You might be 60 today, but you're young at heart. Don't you think so, Joyce?
No, so with all my heart. As young as we are, when someone was saying, you know, the young man, I said, you think it's an open man. You said open man here. Now, one of the greatest things that I get from you every time I listen to you is your sense of hope, your sense of being alive. I have never heard or seen any strain of giving up or relenting. Now, there is a lot of hopelessness in society. And more so in the last 3 months, I think it is multiplied with all the things that happened during the elections. ask an average Nigerian or some young person, maybe the youth corpers over there, what do you see about Nigeria in 2050? Should I try it? Some of them will just go, So please say it is where? It's not there. So ma'am, what do you see about Nigeria in 2050? And support it with some words of hope. At least for the people in this room and for the countless number that are watching today and will watch the replay of this conversation, how are we going with hope?
Yes. It is hard to hope. Let's just be frank. It is hard to hope when all you do see are patterns that sort of repeat themselves of a country that would be so really great. I mean, the world looks at us in wonderment. They look at us in wonderment. They say every time, I'm sure many of you have experienced it, when people would say every time I meet a Nigerian, I feel like, oh my goodness, wow, such formidable people. But then, when I read about your country, it just is a complete paradox. What's going on with you people? It can make you have a tendency not to know. But I have to say to you that you must hope. And you must be hopeful. But it's only a dead person that cannot turn around the situation. When I look at the young people of Nigeria and Africa, I see my number one game changers for the continent and the country. And by the way, this is not a bad talk. I'm talking economics, in the sense that it is very clear from the economic analysis that Africa's pathway out of the entrenched poor governance it has experienced so far will be the young people as number one factor. The second reason that I have plenty of them, the women of Africa. The women, I'm not trying to preach so that women will be happy. I'm talking again economics. Economic analysis has shown that for Africa, an optimization of the productivity and capabilities of the women will increase Africa's GDP by over 10 to 40%. Because at the moment, they are marginal. They are kept in informal activities that are low productivity. All you need to do is to ignite them with the right sets of policies, with the right sets of institutional and regulatory systems, with the appropriate investments in the things that matter for productivity and competitiveness, and everything changes as far as the productivity of countries and the continent are concerned. And then finally, technology. My goodness, all of you, the younger ones, you were born after a minister in this country said to the poor that telephone services is not for the poor. It happened, did it not? It did in this country. But what is the greatest asset of the poor in Africa today? It is the telephone. It is not the car. It is not the motorcycle. It is actually the telephone. The power of the telephone on the continent, and this is economics again, it's been incredible. Through the telephone, through the internet services, the voice services, the data services, Africa's economic growth actually is finding more contributions through telecom and ICT than it is finding through the traditional sectors. Absolutely. So do you see that the three game changers that I have spoken about are well within our reach? Fantastic. We, not the ones who don't want the society to make progress, should be hopeless. Who did I say should be hopeless? The ones that don't want this society to make progress. They are the ones that we permit to be hopeless. As for you and me, What should we be? Full of hope. So let me know
we feel of hope. We certainly are hopeful. And speaking about hope, let us invest this hope, this right of choice and this right of voice in an even younger citizen of this country, Chidera Osadili, primary school, pupil of Alderman International School.
Rwanda made a big difference. Another country was Botswana. They did so well with the things that we did in education. But right now, I am doing something that we call the Human Capital Africa. Human Capital Africa is trying to make sure that all our political leaders and our policy leaders understand that they understand the importance of the foundational level of education. Because research has shown us that if the children don't gain literacy and numeracy skills by the age of 10, at the level that children in other continents and countries of the world gain them, then we're not talking out of poverty in time. Every other level in education is dependent on what happens at foundational level. Currently, 9 out of 10 African children don't gain that level of proficiency in literacy and numeracy. That's a colossal failure. And so what we're doing through the Human Capital Africa is to change that. Chidera, are we trying?
How lovely. Thank you, dear Emily. Thank you, Chidera. Lovely notes. Lovely. Can I have someone escort my darling Chidera? Back to Thank you. So as our honoree walks back into the village square, Yemi, in June 2022, and speaking to Chidera's question about what Big Sis has been doing since education, she will bring more of education in an even more innovative way. The unconventional School of Politics, Policy and Governance was in Berlin, and we're meeting with our partners, the German-run foundation GIZ, to speak to some of the work we had done with the resource we had gotten. And our founder was one of the keynote speakers, Johan Zattler, who is the head of GMZ. And the moderator asked them a question each. What is the one thing that Africa needs right now to begin to get back on track? And our founder said, disruption. And the whole room sat up, really, because they were not expecting that answer. But there's a context in which she meant that disruption. I'm sure you've heard us say that as well in some cases.
Certainly. And tied to the conversation that I'm quite a privilege that I get to ask the last question. For someone who has been validated by her dad, for someone whose faith has played a huge part in her journey in this space, it has been a privilege to learn from you and walk with you. Disruption is something you do say quite a lot, but I'll tie that to say that if there was one thing, and it's something you have arrived at, so if it's one thing that you would do differently over your decades of impact, what would that be? And tie that into a younger generation who want to have leadership roles in their community and nations, what would you tell them now?
I think that the one thing that I would say I have done for a number of the young ones who are steadfast in following the values that I have represented in my doings, not just in my sayings, is that you don't have to negotiate your values. For real. You don't have to negotiate your values for anything. It's not worth it. So you can see that it is costly. It is extremely costly. But you at least can go to bed knowing you did not negotiate your values. So that's one. Number two is a lot of people will get up and say, when we get to government, then, we will fix everything. And I said, God, sit down. Because when you get to government, you will change everything. You will fight corruption. okay, the way you're talking, you already look like one of those that in 2 weeks, when I next see you, I will not recognize you again because you have immersed yourself in what you thought you were going to correct. So what I do is making people count the cost. You must count the cost. When you have counted the cost, I will make sure that you know that it is costly. If you've counted the cost and you say, I can still come out without anything that will be associated with wrongdoing, I know that I have helped you, not just in Nigeria, but everywhere actually around the world. And I have seen people who have come back to me, especially in countries even other than Nigeria, saying that that conversation helped prepare them for their thinking about public leadership differently. And finally, the matter of multiplying the leadership, multiplying it. What we've done through the SPPG, the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, is essentially to multiply the kind of leadership that is about character, competence, and capacity. And in all of you that have graduated from that school, in those that are in the school at the moment, in those that will yet come to the school, what we're saying is that you cannot but love to lead your country only through serving your country. It must be that you serve your country and that makes you a leader. Not that you lead your country and then you serve yourself. Because that's what we currently have. People say they are leading Nigeria, but they are serving themselves. We need leaders that will serve Nigeria, and in that process are leaders of our country. Absolutely. And I just want to thank all of you for putting this together. I am so blessed to be in this room today, and I just bless every one of you who's been a part of this celebration of my birthday. God bless you. Your children will be greater than anything I have been able to do. You will rise to the highest that you can in your lives. And I believe that our country, Nigeria, will ultimately be that great nation that it is destined to be. Thank you very much.
It is my honor to be upstanding for this next round. Is VC and Nero Aida Otogo in the house? Because we need to show the SPPG logo. Some of you might say, I have seen this logo somewhere. Where have I seen it? This is the SPPG logo I proudly wear. And we have members of the Pioneer class. I was privileged to be the dean of that Pioneer class. And I would like to ask the dean of 2022 and 2023 to please come on stage as well. The indefatigable Yetile Alibaba, if she's here. Alasaji Fabola, president, alum of the SPPG. Yemi, who has multiple hats, vice president of the Alum Society. Halima Tawheed, publicity secretary. Lois Autam, who's already here, is treasurer. Tim Card, not seen in a while. Where's Tim Card? Tim Card Peter, financial secretary. Please make a presentation to our founder. You need to do this quickly. Pixies, shall we invite you to the center, ma'am? 20 seconds.
Well, nothing to say, but to say thank you. Thank you for being a beacon of hope, as I said. So we're going to present this quickly as a token. Pray that you accept it. Congrats, sir.
Many thanks, Pioneer class. Standing in the wings is the current class of 2023. Sir Paul and colleagues hosted us a few days ago at Gidanka, the destination, and they also have a presentation. So, can I ask?
Can somebody come take this off her, please? Flower, you didn't add Ugu.
Thank you. 2023, your 10 seconds of fame. Some of of us have been in so many SPG classes, we should be thinking of getting a certificate ourselves.
The panel, picture of the panel, picture of the panel.
Can we have a photo with the panel while the mentees get ready?
Thank you.
Okay, while the professor gets ready, 1 second for the mentees. Because we're going to close on the professor. He is live already.
I'm not a professor, I'm a poet. And I'll share one poem today. Bring back the couple in our pockets. When a coin could buy a boy biscuits. Bring back the days of neighborhoods, the good we had in all of us. Bring back the trees, bring back the river. Bring back a clean and peaceful Niger Delta. Bring back the nights, the full moon nights, and the stories we told by candlelight. The songs each one knew well by heart, the games we played before the internet. Bring back more culture, the wonder year. Who brought us to this place of tears? So where is Jos? Before the trenches, bring back the plateau and our churches. Before the proof of faith was riches, bring back Islam. Before extremists, before the proof of faith was murder. Bring back that love for one another. When neighbors checked on neighbors' children, not taught them how to go kidnap. Bring back the days of boarding school, when boys were maids. Bring back our girls, waking our socks up to knees. Bring back that bond between cities. Bring back the trains, the open roads, not men who kill for absent gods. So where is Jos? Before the madness, bring back the minds we've lost, the darkness and all that's good in you and me. Bring back that old Maiduguri. And all that's good from Sambisa. Bring back the child, bring back Mama. When bird songs fill the morning air, bring back the days our head was clear. When right and wrong were well defined, these days, these things are hard to find. I said, bring back the bulala. If these will not, these ears will hear. Bring back my father's popo. These children need to know. So hold on to some traditions, no matter how cold your mobile phones, no matter how fast your internet, it can't replace this heritage. Don't sit there and watch your elders stand. It's still abomination in this land. Don't you recall what used to be? Bring back that old morality that drew its pride from who we were and not from what we wore. Bring back the days of heroes past. As long as one is still oppressed, as long as one is not yet free, then let it be as though it's me. To hold to shield, to hold to sword. Bring back the days of Ecomore, when we gave psalms to save Liberia, kept the faith to free Mandela, stood up tall with brother nations. Look, these things are still within us. Broken roads, not broken minds. Beneath it all, the spirit burns with longing to return to days of mighty granite pyramids. Bring back that taste of dignity. When self-pride was still a type of prosperity, how did it ever come to this? I ask again. So where is Lagos? Before we dipped our hands in blood, bring back those dreams we had. Thank you.
That girl is a terrorist. You know. Ladies and gentlemen, so I told you that I had a song that I wanted to do, but before then, Kelechi Ajayi again with a song before I'll do my song, and she's doing
Jigide.
She is asking God, Jigide, on your way, Jesus, Jigide. She's not ashamed to call you her
At this point, I'd like to now invite for appreciations, Pastor Obiageli Oby Ezekwesili, on behalf of himself and the family. Please give him a round of applause.
Hallelujah. On behalf of my family, we want to appreciate the giver of life. The one that allowed his daughter to be conceived was not aborted during the gestation period, was not given birth as a stillbirth. The one that has kept her alive 60 years tomorrow. It is him that we have come to celebrate, not the work of his hands. All she is only by him alone. The giver of life, we appreciate him. And we want to appreciate each and every one of you. The program started by one. When you are supposed to be in your offices or at the place of work, but you did it fit to leave whatever you were doing to be here, to celebrate God's grace upon his daughter. We are very grateful. On the day of your celebration, you will never do it alone.
Amen.
As you have come to celebrate our joy, the only of joy will surely come. And people will rejoice with you. So for each and every one of you, anyone that has anything to do with this organization, our God will reward you. We visit you. Your day of celebration will surely come. So once more, on behalf of the Ezekwesili family and the Jugomo family, want to say thank you and God bless you. And I equally crave your indulgence that the next celebration is tomorrow. But we love to see each and every one of you at the Everlasting Arms Parish in Gariki. Just a compound before the Gariki model market. Thank you once more. You are highly appreciated. God bless you.
Cornelia, hold on. You guys play the coach. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have photographs to take and we have a cake to cut. I'm French. that promised me soup and that. How did you know that? So we're going to. Mike, can we get a mic? FOH. Okay. So, I'm sure you know everybody has this. Okay. Just stand by the cake so that we know why you are doing this.
All right, I think everybody has this copy. Who doesn't have? Please, you can signify your hands, you can get a copy. This is a compilation of notes, thoughts, reflections, reminiscences from your mentees. We have a board outside and you should look at the list of mentees. I call it a life in mentorship. An incredible list of people. A lot of people we could not even get across because maybe change emails, change workplaces. But just to appreciate you for mentorship. I should not be doing this alone. Mo and Professor, we were both on this, and I'm always grateful and for the entire team, Chuba and Chidi was helping on this. And this is to appreciate you for mentorship and for support in many ways. You know, for those letter of recommendations, for those affirmations, and as you read through, we have more copies to give you. I'm sure you find the right one.
All right, so just remain there because we want to do the continent. Members of the committee, please get ready for the first shot of pictures. Please be after this.